This Week in 40K.
Good morning. Welcome to This Week in 40K, the show that is about the grim dark future that's neither grim nor dark. I have with me Billy as always. Billy as always is your new name. How's it going?
As always, relatively good. Had an interesting weekend. While much of the 40K universe was obsessed with LVO, I was obsessed with the National Football League, and given my team, it did not go well. We're in a happy and stable state of mind now.
What happened?
Our quarterback tore his ulnar collateral ligament on his fourth pass attempt of the game. Might require Tommy John surgery, meaning he's out for up to 18 months. And I took a long walk.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Who played quarterback with the top three quarterbacks being injured?
Who was? We got a guy named Josh Johnson. He's played on 15 teams in the NFL, including the Niners 3 other times. He's not particularly good. And
he played in the NFC Championship game.
He took the field in the NFC Championship game, yes.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Colin?
I'm all right. I had a really fun weekend. I didn't get to go to LVO because sometimes you don't get to do the things you want as a grown-up.
This is true.
And so instead I had some friends over and we played a whole bunch of Ark of Omens 40K, which we'll be talking about later in the show. We have a weird episode a little bit because this is really us saying goodbye to Nephilim.
Yes.
Finally. And so we've known about the future for a long time, but now it's time to actually take that step forward into the future.
Yes. And saying goodbye to the past first.
Yes. It's just a jump to the left and then a step to the right.
Oh, I know that reference, but I can't place it.
Wow. Okay. We're just going to move on then.
No, wait, what is it?
Rocky Horror.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let's do the time warp again. Okay. So, so we're going to do our normal news that we normally do. And then we're going to talk about LVO. And then once LVO is done, we will say an affectionate goodbye to Nephilim. And then we will talk about Ark of Omens.
Yes.
And then as of next week, all the tournaments we cover will be Ark of Omens. So this is our transitional episode as we move from one season of 40K to the next.
Indeed.
Right?
That's certainly the plan. We'll see how it turns out.
Okay, should we head to our top story?
Let us do that.
Okay, here we go.
Our top story.
Oh, organizer of show, what is our top story?
Unsurprisingly, especially given the intro, LVO happened.
Yay! Oh, wow. Who could have predicted that as the top story?
No one except anyone with a calendar and a vague knowledge of 40K's schedule. LVO happened. It was, largely a rounding success. To the best of my understanding, BCP did not crash this year, which
it did not.
In and of itself, massive improvement. Obviously, some things that could be improved, but the organizers are pretty actively collecting feedback in a constructive way in a bunch of channels. So if you have constructive criticism, reach out to your friendly FLG person that you know, let them know. But the big thing with LVO, Jack Harpster won. Again, congratulations.
Again?
What? Well, again, in terms of this is knowledge for people, rhetorically, as opposed to factually. Jack Harpster won both LVO, and as a result, he won the ITC. He brought Blood Angels, which we'll get into a little bit later. Just really rounding out a phenomenal year for him, maintaining Art of War's dominance, at least over the US-based 40K meta. Seemingly did very well with it, with honestly a list that I find interesting, which we will get to. It is very single-minded in its approach.
Yep.
Some other notable best ofs that I culled from just more my social feed than anything. Anthony Valens Vanilla won Best Cast Space Marines for the year, and Innes Wilson was the best NIDS of the year. So
nice. And Alex McDougall was the best Forces of the Hiveline.
There you go.
Player.
Do we know any other best ofs?
Well, yeah, Nick Naj from TNG got Best Votan.
Did he really?
Yeah.
How many results did he actually have for that?
I don't know, but I've been told he got best hobby with only 2 results.
Naj did with his Votan?
Yeah, because nobody else was getting hobby. The hobby track is not implemented well. In the Pacific Northwest, it's all of our tournaments, and there's other part of the country where it's no tournaments. So, not to take, I'm very happy for Naj to win best in faction. I will only tease about winning hobby because his army is a bare. I haven't seen it, but my understanding is it's a very bare minimum paint job, and it's just there weren't any Votan people that competed in hobby against him.
Well, congratulations to him, and I'm sure. Is this the first actual best in faction that anyone in the formerly best in faction network has received?
Well, no, Mitch has won a bunch of them
since the network has been live.
Since the network's been live now.
Okay, well, congrats to Naj. And that,
in fairness, these are the only awards for best in faction that have been given out since the network went live.
I guess even going back to like when best in faction the podcast started.
Yes, he won best in guard and best in space walls while we've been doing best in faction.
Okay, well then Naj, you're the second human from the network to receive that.
Yeah, well, Alex has been on the network a lot. Anyways, moving on.
So LVO happened. There were a bunch of reveals and stuff from that, and then we will talk about the actual results of what happened in there. But that is the top story. So
okay.
Transition on to what's new.
Sure, and then we'll talk about LVO in just a few minutes. We should say how many people were at LVO.
Well over 800. It actually wasn't in my list here. Hold on one second. I will tell you. No, I'm not particularly well prepared for that.
Fair enough. All right, here we go.
What's new?
I hear we have some new stuff that Billy's excited about.
We do. First off, just new rules. World Eater Blood Tithe points. More of a tongue twister than one would have thought. That was broadly revealed how that works. Things die, you get points. You cash those points in, you get effects. We have yet to see all of the effects, but they are things such as +1 to advance and charge for your entire army for the rest of the game. 5 up, feel no pain to all mortals. And bring Angron back. Bringing your Demon Primarch back, admittedly for 8 points. So a lot of things have to die, but that seems to be a repeatable effect. That strikes me as interesting. Do you have thoughts about multiple times of bringing a Demon Primarch back with 8 wounds? Or lights on?
It's a little surprising. It's a little surprising, I'll be honest. But I'll hold any concern I might have to actually seeing it on the table.
That's fair. I mean, it's probably going to be more neat than good, but it's a potential thing to look out for, is what I will say on World Eaters there. They're going to get full reveals, I assume, coming out this weekend, given the state of pre-orders. So, look to your favorite place for that kind of information coming this weekend. And if you like Blood for the Blood God, those are your boys for it. LVO had 954 total players.
Oh, nice. Good for them.
Some other things that came out at LVO, they're going starting in the order that Games Workshop's community page had it, so not the most interesting one. 2023 event miniatures. There's going to be a guard guy and something, and so the Commissar's Duty and Tolgar Split Eye. That is just a phenomenal name for a cool looking AOS model. The Commissar, if you like Commissars, Colin, this guy's very commissary. Have you seen him?
I have. He's extremely commissary, but I own many Commissars already.
Do you think there are more Commissars or Space Marine Lieutenants in the game?
Space Marine Lieutenants, easily.
Okay.
There's also more Space Marine players than Astra Militarum players.
That's fair. Commissar's probably right in that next tier underneath Space Marine Lieutenants. So those minis are out. We have Strike Force Agatus, which is some new Primaris stuff. The thing that they want you to know about first is the new Redemptor Dreadnought with 2 claws.
The punchy.
And then, but it also can apparently have 2 heavy bolters or multi-meltas in its chest, and then stubbers on its head. Honestly, for the factions that want a Redemptor Dreadnought, I think that has some very interesting applications. There's 2 multi-meltas in its chest. I think you're looking at either Iron Hands or Black Templars, and both of those seem like interesting things to explore to me.
You also could have it outflank in, and then White Scars could make it charge 3d6 drop lowest with +2 to charge.
Yeah,
and then you have a Redemptor punching something in your opponent's army.
That's interesting as well. Okay, so that's fun. And then there are the much discussed and seemingly joked about new Primaris heavy guys with the missile launchers with all of the guns. So, the Redemptor or the repulsors, yo dog, we heard you liked guns, so we put some guns on your guns on your guns. Well, here they put just guns on their guns. It's a missile launcher with an indirect fire attachment.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. What's your thought on these? These have been somewhat polarizing in the community.
Well, they do look like the ridiculous gun from the Fifth Element.
Yes.
We do need to accommodate that the big bada boom that those guns are going to make do look a little bit ridiculous. I don't understand, but I also hate suppressors. Like, I like playing with them, but I hate how they look.
Really?
Okay. Oh yeah. I fly through the air and I shoot this giant gun, but it doesn't make me go backwards. Everything's fine. Like it's
space magic.
What's that?
Space magic.
Yeah,
their belief in their emperor keeps them stable and defies the laws of inertia.
Okay. I've got nothing then.
I think maybe part of what keeps me not part of the grim dark is that the grim darkness of the 40K future has never been the thing that I am particularly drawn to. So the guns on guns, perfectly fine to my aesthetic. We'll see what the rules are. Indirect fire, and then it says they fire super frag and super crack missiles. So they probably add some numbers to a standard frag and crack missile. But depending on points, that could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, there is Vashtor the Archiphane, who is apparently the most truthful demon you will ever meet. And he's that cool new, like, ad-mechy looking demon prince guy. And he's being released with a bunch of Dark Angels. So a double chaos box for those who like mocking the Dark Angels. And I got a chuckle out of Colin for those who are listening.
I always like making fun of Dark Angels, despite how many of them I own.
And play, and are excited about. Spoilers for the episode.
Yeah. That's the noise my Raven Wing list makes.
Sound effects are important. I will actually say, similar to how I think I am a little higher on the weird new Primaris Devastators, Vashtor just doesn't do it for me to the same extent he does it to everyone else. I get that he is unique and interesting, not necessarily my aesthetic.
Okay.
And those are the big new reveals. Stay tuned to, I guess, Adepticon for 10th.
I guess. Yeah, I guess so.
So, I would say let's transition over to results of LVO.
All right, let's do it. Here we go.
What's winning?
All right, full disclosure. These lists do not matter that much.
No.
These are all of them illegal lists in the current 40K. This is the end of Nephilim. They were legal at LVO, but none of them are legal now. So we are going to talk about how people did. We are going to talk about in general what was going on, but we're not going to go into the same detail on lists that we normally do because that would be silly.
It would be silly, and quite frankly, we've talked about basically all of these lists a ton of times already. So there's not a lot new to learn here. The thing that I want to emphasize is, and I just went through the top 16 players and broadly did their lists and pulled out the names. You would recognize almost every single name top 16. If you're a fan of this show and actually pay attention to the names that we read out, all of these people are people you've heard of. And I do think that that is cool, and a testament to the actual skill that you can bring to 40K and the fact that there is way more skill in this game than variance. Now, certainly some great players, like, for example, John Lennon didn't make this. I think he had some rough matchups going in. But the fact that as we go down this list, you're like, yep, know that person well, know that person well. I think that's really cool.
I think that I would like people to realize how little dice odds matter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people love to complain about how dice made them lose their game. And we're going to talk about that on Better Human, Better Gamers. So if you're interested in that, that's a topic that I feel passionately about. But much like how poker is not random, like if you watch any of the big poker tournaments, the World Series of Poker, the same people make it to the end every time. So it clearly isn't random. It's clearly skill. And I think that while 40K's competitive scene is often not very balanced, I think that it's really interesting that the same people do well anyways, because it really is a skill game and not a luck game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important takeaway, especially if we have any listeners who are newer to competitive 40K. That's a good thing for you to get into your head as soon as you accept that everybody rolls average over their lives, and that in no particular game are you guaranteed to roll average, and that you have to overcome dice rolls with strategy. As soon as you accept that, you will become a much better player.
Mm-hmm.
For more tips like this, join Colin on Better Human, Better Gamer Wednesday nights at 5:00 Pacific.
Wonderful show, and probably the most important show that this network puts out. Not necessarily the show with the best shirts, as you can see, but truly something that should be watched. Also, just as a plug to the youngs, because I was realizing as you were saying that about the World Series of Poker, that Rounders might have come out before people who listen to this show were alive. Go watch that movie. It's phenomenal. Anyway, LVO.
Okay, I'm paying you with your money.
One by Jack Harpster with Blood Angels. First thing I have to say about this is his list is formatted in a delightful manner. It is just typed out. It doesn't have every frag and crack grenade that his army has. Just a well-formatted list everyone could take note.
Good job, Jack.
Yeah. Dante Lamardi, Sanguinary Priest, 15 Infiltrators, 21 Sangard, 15 Death Company, 1 Sanguinary Ancient. Just straight punch you in the face. Who needs guns? Just violence.
My understanding here is that the idea was to take Blood Angels and rather than worry about any bad matchups, to tech for them. Now, I don't know how he teched for them, but that's just what I was told by a friend of a friend of a friend.
I would think that the 15 Infiltrators would really let him just start the forward pressure incredibly aggressively while also zoning out problems. And there's just a lot of pain there. Plus, Jack is one of the best players in the world, and this is a list that could leverage deep knowledge of that codex and, the intricacies of the game.
Yeah.
So super kudos to you. We're going to try to move somewhat quickly through here. Second place, Sean Naden with Orcs. I believe this is at least based on the same Orcs he brought to Charity Hammer back in the summer, which, as he explained to me, started as a hobby project that, Sean is just so dang good at the game that his hobby project is something that he could bring to second place at LVO. I am sure there is a lot of intricacies to this list. I don't know Orcs well enough, and there's just so many dang entries. It's Goffs. Most important thing, no Gaz. And really not a lot of the newer stuff, a lot more of the older stuff. Ton of Gretchen, ton of Commandos, tons and tons of different kinds of knobs. It's got 2 battle wagons, a truck, some Ludas. The list just keeps going. It lets Sean do the crazy stuff that Sean does. At some point this weekend, someone in one of my chats messaged, so wait, if you're in combat with 2 units and you're a half an inch from one and just under 1 inch from another, you can pile out of combat with the first thing that you charge so that you can punch them and then they don't get to swing back. And you're like, yes, that's a thing you can do. It's almost impossible to do in practice unless you're Sean Naden. Right. Oh my God, brain blown. So, yeah, old man good at 40K.
Old man yells at cloud.
Yes. Third place, Matt Morsoli. He brought Chaos Demons. He had Scarbrand, Bloodthirster, Lord of Change, Changecaster, 20 letters, 20 D-nets, 3 Nurglings, 14 Flamers. Not a lot there. The fact that Scarbrand is in there makes me very happy. You'll actually see Scarbrand again. I do think we'll talk about Arc later. Demons, I think, have a chance to stay around there, and the fact that Scarbrand is around would be a fun thing for the meta going forward. Fourth place, Mike Porter with Harlequins. Very little innovation there, because why would you innovate at LVO? It's not the place for it. Run what you know. Light, 8 boats, 2 Death Jesters, and a Solitaire. It's been good since the book came out. Still good through the end of Nephilim. Fifth place, Nick Nanavati making his triumphant return to LVO. I guess when you don't YOLO White Scars, but stick with your favorite model in all of 40k, Kairos Fate Weaver. It's part of Demons. Good things happen to you. You had Kairos, Bloodthirster, Scarbrand. Basically, it's the same list as what Matt Morsoli brought, but I think Nick just paid the tax to have Kairos instead of a Lord of Change because he loves that model so much.
They had to play each other too.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Well, that'd be an interesting Jimmy versus Timmy fight.
Jimmy!
I actually have no idea how that's a weird matchup. Is that on stream?
I'm not sure.
Oh, that'd be an interesting thing to watch.
Right. I played 7 games of 40k this weekend. It's possible that I didn't watch very much LVO.
That's very fair. That's very fair. Yeah. Sixth place, Evan Thompson. I'm not familiar with Evan, but sixth place at LVO. Nothing to sneeze at. Is that a name that you're familiar with?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Sorry,
well, congrats
Evan.
to you, Evan.
Evan's going to message and be like, Colin, we've played before.
Well, if you did, you probably would not have enjoyed playing against this army, and personally kind of glad to see it go away. Tau Sept, mostly because of the next thing, 2 bombers. All of these Taus had 2 bombers. Planes can get thrown into the sun. Totally the right thing to do at this event to bring them. Glad they're no longer there. 2 bombers, long strike, 2 big suit squads, 2 commanders, 1 Enva, the guy that gives the feel no pain bubble, bunch of Kroot and Shadow Sun. There was some discussion that at least some of the FLG tables still lead to slight shooting galleries, and the fact that 4 of the top 12 were Tau, I think, speaks to some of that. Although also just some very good players doing that. So,
also, Tau's one of the best armies in the game in Nephilim.
For sure. 7th place, Brad Chester with Tau as well. He brought Farsight, which is the other half of Tau that was showing up. Unit of 5, 3 and 3 suits, 2 bombers as well, 1 Riptide, 3 commanders, and some Kroot. 8th place was actually interesting. Is someone named Jay Eggett. He brought Emperor's Children, but not the Emperor's Children that everyone has been familiar with. He had 3 units of Cultist, 3 units of Noise Marines, but the all-gun Noise Marines, not like the punchy, shooty hybrid ones. 1 big unit of Chosen, 3 bikes, 5 possessed, a Dreadclaw, a Venom Crawler, and a Termite Drill, along with his HQs.
Wow.
Yeah, I have to imagine that this is a very toolboxy thing that he is very comfortable. Jay is very comfortable and familiar with, and not necessarily something that a lot of people are used to. That level of deep strikiness out of Emperor's Children, but they do have that auto 6 strat on charges, which makes that an interesting thing to do. Running through the next 16 very quickly, just because, again, some names that are worth mentioning. Nassim Fouchain, 9th place with Tau. The Farsight, basically the same as Evan Thompson's, just Farsight instead of Tau Sept. 10th place, Alex McDougall. He brought just Kraken. A lot of mortal wounds between zones and spore mines in all the various ways you can do that. Someone named Oliver Smith in 11th with Blood Angels. He brought a dev pod along with all the jumpy boys. Matt Estrada in 12th. Tau Sept, 2 bombers, long strike, Riptide, big suits, yada yada. Ben Jones in 13th. He brought Inari. He had 1 big troop of clowns. 3-3 scatterwalkers rather than the D-cannons that many people had enjoyed. And he had his whole Cabalite squad to run around and do things.
Okay.
Tim Dietlefs, who we talk about on this show quite a bit. He wins a lot of things. Tim wins a lot of things, excuse me. Harlequins, light, again, 8 boats, 2-2 Bolus bikes. TJ Lanigan in 15th with 1,000 Suns, 20 Terminators, 533 Flamers, and Zach Kerstetter rounding out the second pod, 16th place with Blood Angels, just all of the jump pack dudes. So none of those factions are particularly surprising to see at the top. That's a lot of what we saw in Nephilim. The Emperor's Children list is genuinely interesting, different, and new. Personally not going to mourn the loss of 2 Tau bombers in every Tau army or the amount of mortal wounds that, Alex's NIDS could put out, but a good send-off to Nephilim, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think that Nephilim got a little stale at the end there, but that's okay. It's all right to be a little stale going into LVO. You get to see the list that everyone's super practiced with that way rather than a bunch of new stuff. And again, we talked about how it was unfortunate that LVO was all the old stuff, but also made sense. FLG was put in a rough decision timeline-wise, and they had to make the best call they could. And so I'd like to wish a very fond and cordial goodbye to Nephilim. And now, are we ready?
Let us move on.
Shall we move to the new season of 40K?
It's certainly where my brain has been living for the past 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. I'd just like to say for everyone who tried really hard last season, great work. It is an exceptional amount of effort to get armies painted for tournaments, to get to tournaments, to find coverage for your dogs and your pets and your wife and whoever else needs coverage, and to get your work done and your chores done, and to go spend 2 days or 3 days or 4 days playing 40K many times in a year to do well in the ITC is an incredible commitment to your hobby. And I want everyone who really think they put the effort in to worry less about the number they got and to focus more on that effort and that fun that they had. And to give themselves a very enthusiastic pat on the back, not so hard that you hurt yourself, because it really, in the end, only a very small number of people can end up in the top 10 of the ITC. The rest of us are just playing a game that's fun. So, like, if you don't win Best in Faction or you don't win the ITC, you get nothing. So it's important to focus on why we're doing this, which is to have fun. So
journey over destination.
Yes, I hope everybody had. Yeah, the real prize is the people we met along the way. So I just want everybody to leave everybody with that, as Billy and I say a fond adieu to Nephilim, and we move into Arcs of Omen. I don't have an intro for that.
Do you want to just play the intro music so we can do again?
Would people enjoy that, do you think?
I don't know. I enjoy my shoulders.
This week in 40K.
Welcome to This Week in 40K, where we're only talking about Arcs of Omen.
And bopping our shoulders.
Well, that's what we do. So, I didn't get to go to LVO, but I am very excited about Arcs of Omen because I like when things change. I am not someone who complains a great deal when things change, because I like new, because new allows me to research and tech and try things and see what's new and play against new stuff. And, I love the variety and change that 40K gets semi regularly. I know it's not everybody's favorite. I really enjoy it. So with a number of us unable to go to LVO, we crashed out here from roughly Thursday night to Sunday afternoon. And I played, over that week, I played 10 games of 40K. 9 games of 40K. And I played 7 from Friday to Sunday.
Okay. You had your own personal LVO in terms of content.
I did.
In terms of quantity.
And I had about 7 other people over. I had Hank Adams, who is the Hank from Hank's List Corner, which we'd love to bring back, but we're having logistical problems doing. And I had Zach Nelson, a big tournament winner from the Pacific Northwest. I had Chuck, who everybody knows. Nick Hendricks, who's a great player from the area. Josh Bagwell, great player from the area. Michael Timpey came up. Jason Schuster came down. We really just had a wonderful weekend. And the idea was just that we would play a bunch of Arc. We probably played 20 to 30 games of Arc over the course of the weekend. And we used very aggressive lists and really bashed into each other and really saw what was going on. And so I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about how that went, since we don't have any Arc tournaments to talk about, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right?
Yeah, this is on. I knew what happened at LVO. I've heard anecdotally what happened with Arc. This is the content that I'm curious about.
Okay. All right. So first of all, we had a 3-round RTT. And at the end of that RTT, we had 2 undefeated players. One of which was Hank with 9 Russes and 10 Bulgren.
Okay.
That list is wildly gross. It's actually better than the 11 Russ version that he had been playing. The problem is that with such a small amount of dudes on the field, the Bulgren don't count towards the secondary and flexible command. So I think he has something, command squad or something, that's just chilling in his deployment zone and just auto gets 15 because he doesn't have actual infantry he has to worry about. So he scores points incredibly well. Mm-hmm. His tanks are OBSEC and count as 5 models. They shoot the crap out of you, and if you get too close to them, Bulgren charge you into your face. So it's very good, and it absolutely went undefeated. I don't remember exactly who he beat. I know that he beat Zach's Iron Hands. He had a 1-point victory over Chuck Zinch, which we'll be talking about. And I'm not sure who the other person Hank played was right now. It was not me. And then I also went undefeated with Ravenwing, which is so let me talk a little bit more about Ravenwing when I talk about Marines here in a second, because I'm going to spend an entire segment on Marines. So we both won the RTT. I also played a game with Space Wolves. I played a game with White Scars. I played more games with Ravenwing. I did not get a chance to try Eldar. I'm sorry if you give me White Scars and Space Wolves and Guard and Ravenwing and tell me I can play all of those right now. I'm not going to make a lot of time for Eldar. There's just a big power difference between those things. So sorry, everybody who was looking forward to me testing Eldar. I'm not saying that I won't. I just didn't have time this weekend to do it. So what we saw, let's talk in general observations. The missions aren't really different. That's the first thing. They're supposedly different, but as someone who doesn't have all the missions memorized, I certainly didn't really notice as we were playing. I think that's dumb. I would like to stop getting the same mission pack over and over again with the same missions in it. I also think that limiting each faction to 1 secondary for the sub-factions, for Space Marines, for CSM, for Demons, all that stuff, is really good. It makes it so that, White Scars and Dark Angels and whatever don't have 8 secondaries to choose from while everybody else has 4 or 3.
Oh, can I interrupt? That's a thing I didn't realize. You can only take one of... So, like, Space Marines can't take the general Space Marine and the sub-faction
No, they can, but they only have 1 space faction. There's only 1 sub-faction secondary for each one now.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So, like, some of the ones that people really liked are just gone.
Yeah.
They just took them out of the game. So, yeah, it's a very different game. I'm even more bothered by secondaries than I was before, because there's only like 2 general secondaries in each section, and some of them are just not, in my opinion, not takeable.
Yeah.
I think Psychic Interrogation was one of the most common secondaries, and now it's not that you need line of sight. They need line of sight of you, which I think is a funny role. So if I'm trying to interrogate Billy, I don't have to be able to see Billy. Billy has to be able to see me. And you're wondering, when is that relevant? And Magnus is the answer.
Yeah.
Anybody who casts spells that's huge, this makes Psychic Interrogation very easy for them, because they can just be like, hey, You're looking through a window because I'm not obscuring. Interrogated.
That's a fluff fail, but I think a rules win. But anyway.
I think it's weird, and I also think that it murders psychic interrogation for the vast majority of the game. I don't care for that.
Yeah.
So in my mind, that makes Warp Ritual the only psychic one worth taking. I found picking secondaries to be hard. They certainly have succeeded for a lot of armies in making it so that you don't just auto 45, which I really appreciate. They nerfed Necrons, they nerfed Thousand Suns. Like, they really made an effort to kill off the armies that were just scoring secondaries like crazy. I think, so I saw a bit of a different game, but unfortunately, I saw an incredibly killy game.
Right.
I think that Guard and Space Marines in particular have it, and I've heard that AdMech's going to be like this too when people get it figured out. These things are wildly aggressive. And I think that we're at a point now where the only way that Omen is going to be fun is if we add terrain to our tables. This is something that I've heard John Lennon say publicly. I think he is 100% correct. The gun lines and the angles is really bad. Some of the armies that are very good now have incredible mobility.
Yeah.
And so you get an incredibly good shooting army with incredible mobility. You have to have really good terrain to make that an interesting game and not just one person getting rolled by the other.
Yeah.
I need to mute for just a moment or so, Billy. If you want to riff, I'll be right back.
Okay, I will riff. So I do think, just listening to what Colin said, in general sense that I've gotten, is that this is largely the Imperium's time to shine, as it generally is at the end of an edition, which we all assume that it is. The other thing to pick up on there is just how killy it is. It's hard to imagine what sort of durability you would need to stay alive from some of the things that we're seeing and hearing about. And yeah, as John Johnson says down there, let's see Dark Angels do well for a bit. That Dark Angels are going to do well for a bit.
Yeah, no worries there.
Yeah, the one of the things that places to explore with the Marines are the armies that got wild points reductions and the ability to dump a ton of stuff into units. They're one of the ones who can do that. Colin has more experience with the other one of those, Space Wolves, than I do, and we have differences of perspective on what is going to work there, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yes. So the big thing that happened here, in my opinion, a lot happened in Omen that's good. The thing that I think is the most notable is they took AOC away.
Okay.
Armor of Contempt. They took that away, and they instead made Space Marines cheaper and have free war gear, and they also let them stay in their doctrines.
Right.
That's too heavy-handed, in my opinion, so far. That's 3 changes where 2 of them probably was fine. Marines, I believe, are a massive problem now. And that's the thing I'm going to talk about in just a moment. I think that we have an S tier that is Guard and some combination of 3 to 5 Marine chapters. And that there's a massive drop off in power from there to the next army. Now, I could be wrong. Omens is new. Everybody has it teched. Everybody has it researched. I am merely giving you my my feedback after I've played, I don't know, roughly 10 games of Arc. Okay, this is just my opinion. I am not a prophet or a soothsayer or a soothseer or any of those things.
There's a concept in other games that we don't actually have as much in 40K of like tier 0, some level 0, something 0. Someone in the chat should know this. But like, there's the starting point. The stuff that we know just from looking at the book is powerful. And then there's the thing that might not on power beat that, but is a good matchup for that. You know, the paper to its rock. And then there's the scissors to that paper. Right now we have rock. We don't know what paper and scissors are, if they can exist. Rock might just be so big and strong, it punches through paper and crushes scissors.
Could be. And I want everybody to know that if you're interested in the stuff I'm about to talk about, you should join the Best in Faction podcast at 9:00 Pacific on Sunday, or find us on YouTube or wherever you find your wonderful podcasts, because we're going to go into detail on the games that we played. We're going to talk through, as only Best in Faction and Best in Faction TNG do, we're going to go into incredible strategic and analytical detail on our games and really talk through what we learned. So this will be the teaser trailer for that, I guess, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about S tier. First of all, I think, and I take no happiness from saying this. You know how Votan and Tyranids got nerfed almost immediately when their books came out because it was very obvious what was going on? Guards next. They really need to be. I had a game against a balanced guard list with Horseman, where Horseman buffed the Khazarkan unit and they got given heavy 3, and then they were teleported to me. And they shot 3 units, and they did 15 mortal wounds and 30 AP2 saves to those units. Yeah. And that's a 100-point unit in 2 CP, folks. That's what that is. And you can take 3 of them, and you can spend 2 CP each time. You only get to teleport 1 of them once, but the entire rest of that combo just exists. So if you go near the guard army, they're just going to shoot you again with the Khazarkans. That's not okay. Russes are undercosted. Sentinels are undercosted. Sentinels can have vehicle orders and infantry orders. There's a lot wrong with that book, and I think, and we'll find out if this is true, but my suspicion is that Guard is better than everyone else. And now that we have the full release, that Guard is going to be a really, really big problem. I really hope I'm wrong, but I will tell you that I'm worried enough about it that I've decided that I'm not playing Guard at my GT in 2 weeks. It is one of the armies I have owned for 30 years. It is one of my largest and most painted model collections. I own what I would take, including a Centaur kit-bashed Lord Solaris that Chuck made for me, who's Lord Centaurius. I can't emphasize enough how concerned I am about this. They also get to be the only army with decent indirect fire. So it's a mess. And I think that it's simple. I think it's just a book that was too overtuned, and they just need to bring it back a bit. I think if they nerf the way Khazarkans work, in particular, maybe their mortals only work to 1 target. Maybe they can only shoot 1 target when they use their strat. Like, there's straightforward ways to fix that. I think that those changes would help a lot, and maybe that would be enough. But easy to score secondaries combined with the best shooting in the game and a lot of stuff is not a good thing for the rest of us.
Yeah. Near the end of 8th edition, Brandon Grant went on a podcast and explained how GW regularly forgets that multiplicative buffs are way better than additive buffs. And it feels like this is a case where they forgot that. The amount of stuff that you can dump on 1 target, the 7th thing that you put on it is much more incrementally valuable than the 1st because it modifies all those others below it. And GW forgets that from time to time.
Yeah, just correct. Okay, so we also saw some really great performance out of Iron Hands. Okay, so now talking about Space Marines, like I said, I think that they got too many buffs. I'm going to talk specifically about Iron Hands, Raven Wing, Ultramarines, Space Wolves. I think those are the ones I'm talking about.
Did you say White Scars?
And White Scars, thank you. All right, starting at the top alphabetically, I believe is Dark Angels.
Yes.
Are you sure? You look very uncertain.
Alphabetizing things in my head is not something I do easily.
Okay. So it's not so much that Dark Angels are good. It's that Deathwing and Ravenwing are good.
Yeah.
So we saw in Adelaide a list that was Dark Angels Terminators with some Ravenwing shooting. So that's cool. What I played is all Ravenwing. I played 9 attack bikes with multi-meltas, 20 Black Knights, 2 Talon Masters, Samael, 3 Vengeance Landspeeders, and 1 unit of Terminator Command Squad with 2 Thunderhammer Storm Shield. Because that's a 70-point unit with 2 Thunderhammer Storm Shields that teleports in for free. That's a great screening piece, a great objective holding piece. If you want to, they can go smash something with their hammers. Like, that's 7 attacks with Thunderhammers. Like, it's not bad.
Yeah.
So, that Ravenwing list is surprisingly durable, with everybody having a 4-up invul when they advance or a 5-up invul when they don't, when they move. It's got an apothecary, so it can bring bikes back. I brought attack bikes back quite a bit, which is rude. It's extremely fast and hits excruciatingly hard. What I saw from Ravenwing is if you go first, your opponent loses. And if you go second and you can hide for a turn and your opponent has to get closer to you, your opponent loses. That's what I saw from Ravenwing. I played 6 games with Ravenwing over the week. And it was incredibly fun for me. I don't know if it was fun for my opponents. The Black Knights in particular are a pretty big problem. If you go first and you want a pregame move and then advance them, they can go 37 inches. If you want them to just move so they can charge, they get to go 31 inches, which is probably fine.
Oh, no, not that.
So they go in with their 20 plasma shots that you can make 3 damage apiece, and they get full rerolls to hit, and they wreck something, and then they charge something else because they also have 31 attacks at strength 5 AP 1/2 damage, which is a great profile for killing lots of the things in the game, especially vehicles, honestly. Not dreadnoughts as much, but if you take a vehicle and you give it AP1, so it's saving on 4s for a lot of vehicles, and then you start doing 2 damage apiece, even at strength 5, that adds up really quickly. I had a game where my friend Nick didn't do a good job of screening the Ravenwing, and I went in, and my Black Knight, 1 unit of Black Knights shot and killed a Redemptor and an Invictor in one go, and then it charged into his characters and killed a unit of suppressors, the Tech Brain, and the Librarian. So 1 unit of Black Knights killed probably over 600 points, almost 700 points there from 1 unit in my army. Then I helped Nick rescreen to stop that from happening again, and I held back for a turn and made him come towards me because he didn't have a choice. And then I tabled him again. And he was playing Iron Hands, by the way. Mish asks, isn't that somewhat a result of getting to take only good stuff and nobody is forced to take troops anymore? I think that I actually like that change because I think you do have to take troops. And I think that their utility now forces you to take them rather than being mandated to take them. For Eldar, they really need Rangers. For Space Marines, they really need infiltrators in the current meta. There's too much aggressive, scary deep strike. You really need some infiltrators, at least 1 unit, but probably more. Lots of people don't have to take troops, but certainly Ravenwing aren't taking troops. So I did have a unit of 5 infiltrators for most of my games. I decided that I wasn't getting any value out of that and moved my points around. So I'm wildly concerned about Ravenwing. We'll leave it at that for now. I will have some bat rep stuff going up on the internets that's all about Ravenwing. So you'll get to see more of that, but very concerned there. The next army I'll talk about is Iron Hands. Okay. This isn't alphabetical anymore. Actually, it is. Yeah, it is. Iron Hands is a really massive problem. Their buffs for just existing as Iron Hands are plentiful. And so what we're seeing from Iron Hands is just undercosted vehicle spam that's fast and shoots the crap out of you. The list that we've been trying is 3 of the Primaris speeders, the Lightning, the Thunderstruck, the Lightning something. Yeah, Thunderstruck, I think.
Thunderstrike.
Thunderstrike.
But it's much more fun if you do ACDC.
It's the BS2 Thunder.
Is your BS2?
Yeah, it's BS2, and it moves 16 inches and shoots things well.
Yeah.
The other thing that list is going to have in it a lot is 3 Gladiators, which is a Primaris tank that I have never seen before.
No, but you're going to see a lot of that now. So it is cheapish.
Yeah. So what Zach did is he played 3 Redemptors, 3 of the Speeders, 3 of the Gladiators, and then he just added a bunch of speeders, because one of the things we found out over the weekend is that land speeders in general are undercosted, and you can take 1 million of them, which we'll talk about in just a second when I talk about my White Scars list. So the speeders give that list the ability to run out and hold objectives, the ability to, go charge something if you need to and hold it up in combat. Like lots of, move, block a gap, lots of things those speeders can do. For 70 points, Billy, you get a 6 wound T5 speeder with a 3-up save that has a multi-melta and an assault cannon for 70 points. It goes 16 inches without advancing in most Marines, but in Dark Angels, it goes 19 inches without advancing. So, real good. I think that Iron Hands are going to be a massive problem because of their durability of their guns. I do think they're the easiest to play Marine that I've seen so far. And I don't think that there's as high of an ability to express skill. I'm very confused at how we're using skill floor and skill ceiling in conversation. I don't understand. So what I'll say instead is I think that the Iron Hands list is going to cap your ability to emphasize the skill gap between you and your opponent. I think Ravenwing is going to have more skill that matters, and the last 2 armies I talk about are going to be the ones where skill is very important.
Yeah. My only take on, I have 2 takes on Iron Hands. One, if you're a same Han Eldar player who doesn't mind Marine aesthetics, listen to what Colin was just saying. And 2, Iron Hands being good that way is because they probably just got the most math in terms of their output changed by getting to stay in Dev Doctrine of all of them.
Yeah, so anybody who gets to stay in Dev Doctrine has a massive bonus over everybody else.
Yeah. You just get
that's really where we're at. So the Dev Doctrine for Iron Hands and for Dark Angels are both crazy. I'm going to talk about out of order because I want to talk about Ultramarines next. We didn't test Ultramarines, but I suspect the Ultramarines list, almost exactly the way we wrote it, is great still. I think that Ultramarines have the same benefit as these other ones. You're going to take Successor, you're going to take Artisans, you're going to take Whirlwind of Rage or whatever. Like, you're going to do that still, but I saw in a list from John Lennon that Bobby G can be in a Successor chapter now.
Huh.
I didn't think he could be before, but that's certainly the list that I saw John showing around. I haven't seen Ultramarines. I presume they're in the same boat as Iron Hands, though, with the ability to just shoot offensively. Ultramarines get a redeploy, which helps you go second. So that's why I mentioned them. Then let's talk about 2 close combat armies. The Dev Doctrine changes are significant. However, there are 2 punchy armies that I think have some merit. Space Wolves got a lot of close combat very inexpensively. Skyclaws are like 120 points for a unit that has 2 Melta-Guns, a Thunderhammer, a Storm Shield, a bunch of chain swords that have 1 million attacks, and that unit goes 12 in charges. Like, that's pretty cool. Wolfguard Terminators are neat. They get to have 1 million combi plasmas that they get to shoot with their buffs. That's super cool. I did find that the fact that they're rapid fire 1 and they don't get bolter discipline, made me really not like them very much, Billy, just as a piece of feedback.
That's where they don't get bolter discipline.
Well, they do, but not on plasma.
Is it only on bolter that they get the free rapid fire?
I'm pretty sure that's true.
I would have to look and see.
So, well, that was what I was told by the rest of the room of gamers when I was playing the army. And so as a result, you're only shooting 5 plasma shots from that unit or 6 plasma shots most of the time until they get close. Okay. And then once they're close, they want to charge. So it's a little bit weird, but it's still the only Terminator unit that gets wildly cool war gear.
Yeah.
So that's neat. I played 20 Terminators. Oh, I have to go in like 4 minutes. I should move along. So my basic takeaway from Space Wolves is I think there's a lot there. I think it's going to be hard to suss out, to figure out exactly what you want to do. I think it's going to be difficult. I think that their gear set of, Tesla 6s and +1 to hit and all of that stuff is really, really strong. I think the difficulty with Space Wolves will be that you're going to want to take 20 Terminators, and that's a lot of points. And then you need a lot of support characters for those Terminators, and then you're going to want Long Fangs because they're really good. And the end result is you just don't have that many points for other stuff that does things. And so I think it's going to be hard to figure out exactly what tools to take in Space Wolves. Finally, White Scars were dealt a massive blow this week by Plasma Inceptors going up 50% in cost. I believe that is a typo being fixed by Games Workshop.
Yeah, it is. They actually posted something on the community page about that specifically.
Yeah. So I think that's a good takeaway. But what that did is it took away fast shooting. They can advance and shoot with no penalty from the White Scars. Really hard to figure that out. So what I tried is 15 aggressors, 10 terminators, a bunch of infiltrators, and 9 multi-melta assault cannon land speeders.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's what I tried. Because 9 multi-melta assault cannon land speeders, Billy, is 630 points.
Yeah.
You're going to see that all the flipping time. I decided that 6 is correct and 9 is not. Because 9 is very hard to hide, and I also want another melee threat, so I'm going to probably add another 5 Thunderhammer Terminators. White Scar's ability to charge from Deep Strike is really strong, and I think if I have 5 Terminators that can, with Thunderhammers that can charge in from Deep Strike, I think that creates a really difficult screening problem for my opponent. And I like to cause screening problems when I'm playing melee armies because I want to make gaps and mistakes in someone's movement that I can use for close combat. The only game I've played with White Scars so far is into guard, and it was really hard. Hank and I spent every turn being meticulous in positioning and trying to make sure. It didn't go great for me, but I think White Scars are incredibly powerful. Just to cut to the end, I have decided that over the next week or two before my GT, I'm going to rep Ravenwing and White Scars. I would prefer to take White Scars because I think there's more ability to flex game knowledge. But I own the entire Ravenwing list, and going across the field is really great. I have to go do my actual job now. So I wanted to say thank you, everybody, for listening. Season done. Hope everybody did a good progress on the goals they were looking for. We will be back next week talking only about Arcs of Omen. Tomorrow night is Better Human, Better Gamer, where we'll be talking about vulnerability and how it will help you win more at 40K. That's a great topic. Come join us at 5 o'clock Pacific, or feel free to listen after the fact on YouTube or the podcast stream. I forgot to ask Frontiers what they're doing this week, but they usually do something every week. They just did a thing 2 days ago that is up for you guys to listen. TNG will be talking about how Lucas beat John Lennon at LVO, I'm certain. And finally, on Sunday, we'll have the Best in Faction podcast, where we'll be talking about our Arcs of Omen practice weekend in incredible detail. So thank you, everybody, for this week at 40K. He's Billy, and I'm Colin, because someone has to be. And we will shout at you guys next week. Thank you, everybody. We love you. Bye now.
Bye.
We do.